Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of our month-long Elisabeth Revue Corner series, celebrating the 20th anniversary of Elisabeth, Elisabeth as performed by Takarazuka. We will be making an episode for each production of Elisabeth since 1996, and they will be posted twice weekly until the beginning of Cosmos Troupe's Tokyo run of Elisabeth, which starts on the 9th of September. In this episode, we will be covering the Snow Troop production from 1996, starring Ichiro Maki as Death and Hanafusa Mari as Elisabeth. With you today are Anna and Lela. Hello, darling, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great, because I'm super happy to be talking about Elisabeth.
Same here.
Yes, I do love this production. Before we start talking about the Snow Troop production, could you give us a plot overview of Elisabeth the musical?
Yes, I will try. So, Elisabeth the musical is based around the historical facts of Elisabeth, Empress of Austria, who lived in the mid to late 1800s. It's an Austrian musical and is originally in German. The story is actually told by Elisabeth's murderer, Luigi Lucchini, long after the events took place. Lucchini is in purgatory after committing suicide and can't go to either heaven or hell before he reveals why he killed her. He claims that she wanted to die because she was in love with death and brings all of the characters in the story to life to play it out for the audience. And so the story begins with little Elisabeth, Princess of Bavaria, who lives a free and happy life growing up on the countryside. She is quite a wild and freedom-loving girl, and when she one day falls down from walking on a tightrope, she comes face to face with Death, who falls in love with her and sends her back to the living world, wanting her to fall in love with him before she dies, or while she is alive. As it happens, after an unexpected turn of events, Elisabeth ends up marrying her cousin, the Austrian Emperor, Franz Joseph I, and she becomes the Empress of Austria. Death does not approve and starts to put plans in motion to bring misfortune to Elisabeth and the Habsburg family. After she marries the emperor, Elisabeth herself also realizes that her free spirit isn't really cut out for the strict life at court, and she grows to be deeply unhappy with her life. With Death always close by her side, with a promise of eternal freedom should she choose to go with him, she strives to live a life that belongs only to herself, while sacrificing almost everything in the process to do so. So it's quite a heavy story, but it's great.
Yes, definitely. Oh. And also, I would like to mention Koike sensei, so it's Koike Shuichiro, and he is really important to Elisabeth, or Elisabeth, because he has directed, I think, every single production of Elisabeth since 1996, which was the first production. So he has been really important to Elisabeth, and I think that we're probably going to talk a bit about him in the upcoming episodes.
Yes.
So, Anna, what were your general impressions of this performance of Elisabeth with Ichiro Maki?
Well, this was the second one I saw. The first one I saw was on DVD, and it was the 2009 production. And so this was the second one. And my first impression was that I was completely blown away by Ichiro Maki's singing voice. Because it's, I don't know, I always say it hits you like a truck. It's like, it's so deep and so like heavy. I don't know how to explain it, but I loved it immediately.
Yeah, her lungs are super impressive.
They are, indeed. And I like it. I love the casting, and I love the different takes on the characters. And you can see how if you see the other ones, you see the other ones have evolved from this one. This was the original Takarazuka version. Yeah, I really liked it. What were your thoughts?
The first Elisabeth I watched was the 2014. When I watched the entire show, it was the 2014, and I love Meteor a lot. So everything after that is being compared to Meteor, or that version. So I felt that the music in this production was a lot more stripped down, and I'm not quite sure, because I don't think that they have changed the arrangements. I don't think that that's it.
No.
I think it might be that because you can choose to emphasize different instruments or different segments when you perform music. So a song can sound really different and still have the same arrangement, but you increase the volume on different bits. And I think that that's the case here, that they have chosen to have emphasis on certain instruments in this production, while in the later productions they have chosen a more modern kind of music industry type of sound. So I think that that might be it. But the music does seem different to me, at least.
Something about the music as well is that I noticed that they changed the tempo. The tempo in certain songs are different in this one. Some are slower and some are, yeah, it's different. And I don't know if it might be closer to the original Vienna production. I only know that I'm not so familiar with it, but I know that one song that is in the current Elisabeths, it's not up tempo at all, but it has a lot, like the tempo is much quicker than it is in the 96 version. And the Vienna, the original one from Vienna, that song is really slow. I think they paced it up later too, but I wonder if that might be a connection. I think they've moved away more from the Vienna production as Takarazuka has created their own version through the years.
Yeah, definitely. They have grown into the characters and
definitely
the roles. Yeah.
Yes.
So another thing about the music and the singing in this production is that it's really good.
Yes, it is. And happy for me because I love good singing.
Yeah, I think Ichiro Maki was the perfect top star to have as the first death because she has the voice to carry the role.
Yes.
And her death is like a force of nature, kind of unemotional, a bit blank, and there is nothing that you can do to stop death.
No. She has a really, really cold, expressionless and inhuman way of portraying death, which we will discuss the different ways in later episodes, which also is really interesting, see how different people really can change this character. But her death is really cold.
Yes.
I feel, is my impression.
Yeah, that was the impression I got as well.
And as you say, the singing in this version is really good. And I think it's important because this is a musical that's composed all the way through really elaborately. And for me, that needs good singing to make it really good.
There are lots of good voices in this production.
Definitely.
Another thing that I was thinking about that might be interesting is that in the first scene when Death appears, Ichiro Maki is wearing an outfit that has a design on her chest that I believe is the Habsburg family coat of arms.
Yeah, could very well be so.
Yeah, I think that is what that design is. And they use that design later on in other productions. They have it, for example, on the staircase. In some productions, they have them on the shanshans that they use at the end.
Yes, and on the curtains.
Oh, yes, that as well. So I believe that design is actually a version of the Habsburg coat of arms. So if anyone was wondering, I think that is what it is. And I only looked it up because I saw that she was wearing it and I thought, that is probably important somehow. So that's why I looked it up. And I think that's it, because it does look very similar. Other things about her outfit is that she has sparkle gloves and sparkle boots. Straight from the get-go. And I love
all the
that.
sparkles.
All the sparkles. I think actually that the first couple of Elisabeths have more toned down costumes in general, but they do the sparkles as well.
Lots of velvet.
Yeah.
Lots of velvet.
Yes. Everything is so pretty.
One thing about the clothes that Death wear is that all the other characters are wearing period pieces, like clothes from the 1800s. Death is the only character whose fashion reflects the time period of the production.
I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
I mean, like in this one, Death has some real 90s fashion going on there sometimes. Ichiromaki's clothes, she wears this huge suit jacket that it looks too big for her, and shoulder pads, and I don't know. It looks very 90s to me. I'm not convinced. But I think that's a fun thing to look at.
And if you do love 90s fashion, then you're going to love this.
Yeah, probably. 90s fashion plus a little bit of sparkles.
What else do you think about her portrayal of death?
Well, personally, it's a little bit too expressionless for my taste. I see what she's getting at, but to me it feels kind of as just she doesn't care. And for me, it's hard for me to believe that she can actually fall in love with Elisabeth, or he, or she, he. So that's something I'm not really keen about. But I like cold deaths. Otherwise, I like them not too emotional, but maybe a little too cold for my taste.
Yeah, I agree that death should have a kind of inhuman touch to him, because love is supposed to be a new thing for him, and it's an entirely new experience. So yeah, but I guess there is such a thing as too cold a death.
Yeah, well, if he's supposed to fall in love with Elisabeth, I don't see it in him. Even there's a song, if you've seen the show, it's called Aitoshi no Rondo, and it's probably the biggest hit, and it was written specifically for the Takarazuka version of Elisabeth. It's not in the original one. It is now, I think, but it wasn't from the beginning. For me, I need that song to feel like it's coming from a build-up. He basically sees her, falls in love with her, and sings this song, and I need to see that he falls in love with her when he's singing it. But I don't really feel that with Ichiromaki's death. I don't see a change in her when she falls in love. Or him. I'm sorry, I'm really mixing up him and her here, but I mean death. Yes, so that's what I think about that.
Yeah, no, I agree, definitely. You need to have a good reaction from the first time that he sees Elisabeth. He needs to actually look at her and then have a reaction.
Yeah.
And it's not always that reaction is visible, I guess.
No, it's very different. Some do it really, really clearly, and some don't. Yeah. But I need to feel that the song is coming from something. You know, like, oh, he's feeling something now. I don't feel that with Ichiromaki. I feel like she's as expressionless as always, like in the show, and it doesn't really do it for me.
But there are other things about this portrayal that she is kind of expressionless that makes me like other scenes, such as the scene where Elisabeth finally says that, oh, my son is dead, everything's awful, just take me now, take me away from this life and this pain. And then Death says, but you don't love me. You don't love me yet. I can't have you if you don't love me. And I think she does that scene particularly well.
I agree.
So there are elements to it that she does better, and then other elements that are not quite as on target, perhaps. Yeah. But this was also the first Elisabeth, so it's still kind of you need to get to know the characters, and if you don't have a lot of other portrayals to compare yourself to, you can't really see the things that you see in the character that other portrayals have missed.
No.
So I think it might be easier for people later on to look back on, well, what have other people done and what do I want to do, and they can
it's easier
pick up on
and harder bits. I think, because it's easy, it's hard not to fall into like the habit of mimicking someone else, and also not to think too hard about like, I can't do this because this person did this. If you think that too much as well, you become really unfree, so I think it's both harder and simpler.
Yeah. But one of the things that I've really enjoyed about watching these earlier shows is that I can see where some things that I think are significant or poignant when they started coming in, like little details, such as the death pose. And it's at the end of the first act when they are singing Watashi dake ni reprise. In other versions, Death is sitting on the floor with one leg bent and the other leg stretched out.
Yes.
And it's a fantastic pose, and it's a pose that I think of immediately when I think of Takarazuka Death. And it's not in this performance.
No, it's not.
So it makes me a bit like, oh, but where's the death pose? I love the death pose. But then that made me happy later on when I watched the first performance when the death pose was in it. So those little details, it's the performance that we're going to talk about in the next podcast. It's the 96-97 Hoshigumi.
Star Troop.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if it was the first one, or if it was 98 that was the first one.
There are many details that start coming in that Hoshigumi performance, actually. So I really enjoyed that about it, that there were lots of things that were not in this performance that was in the next ones.
If you've seen the latest ones, you can really see how far it's come, how far it's evolved as a musical, and how they find things that are good and stick with them, and some things they maybe lose, and that's fun with watching the earlier ones as well.
I'm kind of wondering how much of the things that they include that are new that comes from the CNs, because if other people then copy that, it feels like, oh, she's copying that bit from Mariko Death, or she's copying that bit from Mizu Death.
Yeah, you never know that, do you?
Yeah. It makes me think a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah. Other comments that I have about Ichiro Death is that the wedding laughter sounds a bit like birds, like crows. It's really creepy, and I love it.
I think I had something with that one. I thought it was so long. It went on for so, like, the laughter it went on and on and on, and I thought it was a little bit funny. I don't know. It's because I'm used to other shows.
Yeah, it makes the atmosphere really uncomfortable.
It's true.
And I think that is the whole idea, that it's so out of place and then it goes on for so long that you really feel that something's not right here.
It was extremely high-pitched and it went on for a long time.
But I was wondering as well if other CNs didn't chime in. They do that, right? It's not just Death who is doing the laughter. Other people are joining into...
I always thought it was the only person. Like, the Death was the only one. But they pre-recorded it. Like, she does the first laugh herself. And then all the echoes are already recorded before.
I felt as though the echoes didn't really match.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I've always thought that. Yeah. But maybe it's different from production to production as well.
Yeah. It sounded to me as though it was different people in this production, but I could be completely wrong.
You can listen for that if you want to watch this version.
Yes, there are many things to listen for in all of the Elisabeth productions. Yes. Then I also wanted to mention that when Ichiro Death gets pissed off, it's really hot.
Important.
Yes, and that's all I have on that.
Can you specify this a bit? A scene or something? Or just generally?
Well, I mean, generally. I mean, she's really attractive. There is no denying that. She just looks fantastic.
She does, yeah.
And it is the scene after the scene in Elisabeth's bedroom or maybe it's not her bedroom, but it's she is writing this ultimatum. She's writing a letter to her husband, and Franz Josef is outside the door, and he's pawing at the door, going like, "Oh, come on, let me in. I've had such a terrible day. There's still a war going on, and everything is terrible. Just, I miss you, and I want to be with you." And after they have an argument, and she has basically sent him off with an ultimatum, Death comes into the room and tries to get Elisabeth to want to kill herself, essentially. And Elisabeth yells at him and says that, "I can have my own life now. Things are looking up. Get out." And then after that, he looks really pissed off. And then the milk song starts.
In the later versions, I think Death takes a bow and walks out, or something like that. I think she just walks out. It doesn't even do anything courteous, just like F you, and just walks out and closes the door.
Yeah, and she looks so pissed off. And then in the milk song, she's stalking around the stage, and it's kind of like she wants to have revenge on Elisabeth.
Yeah, I think that's what the milk song is about, basically. Death decides that she wants to make her even more miserable, so Death goes out into the streets and tells people why they don't have milk. So they'll be angry.
Yeah, and then they are angry, of course, which makes sense. I would be angry too.
They be angry.
Them peeps be angry, yeah. And then I noticed another thing about Ichiro, which is in the coronation scene. So that's in the second act. After he crowns Elisabeth, of course, you're not supposed to know that it's Death until he turns around later on. But it looked as though after she had put the crown on Hanafusamari, it looked as though she wobbled a little bit, like she lost her balance just slightly.
Really?
But I didn't really care, because if anyone can pull off a golden pope outfit, it's Ichiro, right? So other people might feel silly putting something like that on, but Ichiro just goes, "All right, what am I going to make look fabulous on me today?" It's not about clothes making her look fabulous. It's about her making clothes look fabulous. Yeah.
That would be the Takarazuka motto, I think. In many ways.
I guess that's true, but I just really, really felt that coming off of her. I was just, this is great. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is that the shinabai is kind of casual, and the shinabai, it means, well, how about if you would die for a little, like, how about dying?
Yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't that be kind of, And that is in another scene when Death wants Elisabeth to want to die, of course. And when Meteor says that, she climbs up on the furniture and then she starts
throwing off her coat. I actually have a note about this, because I think that fur coat she's wearing is fab. It's it's so huge, and like before she throws it off, I mean, as the doctor, just a note. It's fabulous.
Yeah, what I felt was that there was not enough climbing up on furniture and stripping in this version. I mean, it was good. I'm not saying that it wasn't, but I would have preferred a bit more climbing and stripping. That's just personal preference.
Personal preference of mine too. I love that scene.
Yeah, no, it's just so dramatic. Like, oh, look what I'm going to do. I'm just going to climb up on the furniture and start taking my clothes off.
And also the reveal of what kind of clothes are underneath, because they're usually pretty hot.
Yeah. I would also like to talk a little bit about Hanafusamari, who plays Elisabeth. Hanafusamari, she played Elisabeth in this production, and then she played Elisabeth in the third production of Elisabeth, which was with Soragumi in 1998. And there are some differences between this performance and the 1998. And I thought that we might touch upon that in that episode. So I think that for today, we should probably just stick to what her performance in this show is like. Hanafusamari in this production, I think, is less keen on all of the guys. She looks really awkward when Death is singing to her the first time when he falls in love with her, just as though she's thinking, why is this pale dude touching me? I don't understand. And then when Franz Josef falls in love with her, or he fancies her, and they sing a song together and they have a sweet, awkward kiss. And she does not look into that kiss. She is kind of closing her eyes and going, ooh, when he is leaning in to kiss her. And then he says, oh, I would like for you to become my empress, like my queen. And she starts running away as though she really wants to just run away from him. But then he starts singing, and then she does fall in love with him over the course of the song.
Might be his singing voice.
It might be, yes, because it's a lovely singing voice, Takane Fubuki.
Yeah.
But she does change her mind over the course of the song. But just that fact that she is kind of rejecting all the men from the get-go. She doesn't like Death. She doesn't like Franz Josef. She's not really into it. So that, to me, is... that's what I got out of it anyway. I don't know. What did you think?
I actually had a note about that too, especially about the kiss, the first kiss they have, because she almost seems forced to it. But also, I just want to say, if you don't know who Hana Samari is, she is the Musumiyaku top star of Musumiyaku Top Stars. She was with, I think, 5 different Otogaku Top Stars for a period of 12 or 13 years.
She debuted in 1991.
Yes.
And then she became top star in Snow Troop. So she joined Snow Troop in 1993, and then she became top star after just a year then.
94.
Yes. And then she became the top star of Cosmos Troop in 98. And then she retired in 2006.
Yeah, together with Wao Yoka, the golden combi. Yeah, so before she was with... Ichiro was the first top star she was together with. And after that, she was with Takane Fubuki and Todoroki Yu. And
only briefly with Todoroki Yu.
Yes. And then with Shizuke Asato and Mao Yoka. And she is the only Musumiyaku top star to have been with these many men, so to speak. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
If anyone didn't know who she is.
Yeah. So she's a really great actress.
She is great. I adore her. I love her. And yes, about the men thing, I think generally this first version of Elisabeth she puts out is, from the beginning, much more childish than the one she later portrayed in 98. She's much more childish and wild, and feels a bit more immature from the beginning, from the get-go. And I think that maybe mixes goes well with the not really liking boys feel to it as well.
Yeah, she was quite young as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to talk about that in the Cosmos episode, but I think you can feel the difference in her.
Yeah, that she had another maturity to her.
Exactly, and she's more calm and more more secure in her role in the later production than this one. But I still think she's brilliant in this one, albeit she feels young. She's young.
Although having said that she feels young, she still ages really well through the play, because this is a very challenging role, because she has to go from being a young girl, a really young girl at the beginning of the show, to being an elderly-ish lady.
Yeah.
I can't remember how old she is, but is she in her 60s or something towards the end of the play?
I think so. I think 60s or 70s, something like that. Yeah. I'm not sure when Elisabeth was born, but I think she dies in 1898 or something like that.
So it's a very vocally demanding show as well, because she goes from having a light, girly voice to having a mature womanly voice. Yeah. And the same goes for Franz Josef, because he needs to go from being a young boy or a young man to being an older guy.
Yeah.
So very vocally demanding roles.
Vocally and acting-wise.
Oh yeah, and all the facial hair that Franz Josef gains over the course of the play as well. It weighs you
That
down.
helps.
It weighs you
Yeah,
down.
that
It
helps
does.
Franz at least. Elisabeth doesn't get any facial hair, but Franz gets that help at least.
Yes, and I also have to say that Hanafusa Mari is a really realistic grieving mother. I think she hit that perfectly. So
Yeah, I adore her. She's my all-time favorite Musume top star. So I think she's the perfect Musume top star. The perfect Musume, I think. She has a really light, airy, beautiful voice, and her acting is just incredible. I think it feels like everything you see her in, it looks as though she's doing it for the first time, even though they were doing it every day for months, you know.
yeah,
So I'm constantly amazed by her.
she's a sweet one. Oh
Yeah,
yes. Shall we talk a bit about Franz Josef?
we can do that.
Yes. So my impression of Takane Fubuki's Franz Josef was that he was very restrained and didn't show much emotion around his mother, because when he did, it was immediately slammed down by Sophie straight away. But then in the scene when he chooses Elisabeth over Elisabeth's sister, he looks super smug when he offers his hand to Sissy instead of Helene. And it's kind of like, oh my god, I've played the best trick ever on my mum. And then he looks at Sissy again, or Elisabeth, and the smug expression kind of turns into being enchanted by her. And it's really adorable, because a pleased Franz Josef is a super sweet thing. And yeah, what did you think, Anna, about the portrayal of Franz Josef?
I think it's a very maybe unique in Takarazuka. For me, I think Franz Josef. The things you said right now, I think they were pretty like on point as well. I just felt that he feels very sure of himself from the beginning, not very pushed around as much as many of the other Franz Josef feels as if they are. He feels kind of adults, you know, grown up from the beginning, not very boyish, but also pretty pushy. I don't like this Franz Josef as a person. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think why I like Franz Josef here is because I like Takane Fubuki.
Yeah, me too. I like Takane Fubuki and I like the portrayal, but I don't like the person Franz Josef. I dislike him because I feel like he's arrogant and, like you said, a bit smug.
Yeah, likes playing
proud,
tricks on people
proud,
a little
you
bit.
know, very like he grew up in court and he embraces that he is the emperor and he is just a little bit more than like everybody else. Like you feel that from him.
Yeah.
And that also makes like the difference between Franz Josef and Elisabeth very like you feel it. Like the difference in their upbringing and the difference in their characters. You feel the difference really clearly. Which is good. The contrast.
Yes. But one really good moment for me was when they're having the fish and fowl dinner.
Oh yes. Lovely dinner.
If you've seen Elisabeth, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When they're having the dinner, he rolls his eyes in a way that just says, "Oh God," when he sees the Madame Wolf collection. So he is not amused when he sees what his mother and advisors have in store for him. And I just thought that was such a perfect moment. Yeah.
And still he eats. What a douche.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. I like that kind of take on Franz Josef as well. Not very. You don't like him. I don't really like Franz Josef generally, but this person just I don't want to meet him, you know.
Another thing about Takane Fubuki is that she hits all the high notes, which is A+ for me. I thought that was a really good performance vocally. Also, she is so small. So in the coronation cape, she is drowning in that coronation cape. Help her! She is too much of a small. And then I think she is shrinking throughout the play. And then Rudolph looks older than Franz Josef. And it's just getting ridiculous. So
Oh, poor Takane.
yeah, but she ages very well throughout the play. She ages very attractively.
Well, I've actually seen her in real life once, and she was really small, so
Okay.
it makes it adds up.
I just felt she's getting smaller and smaller. What's going on?
Yeah, maybe she's smaller now than she was then. I don't know as well. Well, she maybe it's an aging thing, you know. She tries to
Yeah.
make him more smaller as he grows old.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to mention about this Franz Josef portrayal is that when Rudolf has tried to start an uprising, Franz Josef, he doesn't really yell at Rudolf. He's more disappointed. Not angry, just disappointed. And you know, if you have parents, that angry is bad, but disappointed is worse. That's the one you don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's very cold. You always feel like he puts the country's best is always like the first priority, even if it means his son's unhappiness, and he doesn't, even flinch. It's like the opposite of Mitchan's Franz Josef.
Yeah.
If
absolutely.
you have seen the 2014 version with Hokusho Kairi as Franz Josef, it's like the opposite of that Franz Josef. Because you like him, you feel sorry for him and his situation, but this one, nah.
And Mitchan, she doesn't shrink.
She doesn't shrink.
No.
I will look that up again because I didn't notice the shrinking part.
Yeah. Anyway, and then we have the fantastic Todoroki Yu, the Otokoyaku top star of Otokoyaku top stars. And in this production, she plays Lukiani.
Oh, yes.
Yes. What was your impression of Todoroki Yu as Lukiani?
I love her, Lukiani. And I can just have to say it at once, her voice is incredible, and it still is. She has the deepest, most awesome, unique voice there is. And I just feel like this Lukiani he's so lazy, laid back, a bit lazy. I don't give a shit kind of attitude to everything, really. Not really the hot-headed Italian one, just more like really lazy and laid back.
I found him charming and funny. I wanted him to be my new best friend.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
But then, there's always the stab at the end, so...
Always, yeah. He has the the laid back craziness in the eyes. He's not the crazy all out batshit, He's just, you can see it in his eyes, sometimes the craziness shining through. Otherwise, he's just in the background telling the story, not really, just thinking it's funny what's happening, not really caring too much about anything. And yeah, I really enjoyed her performance.
Yeah, and the way she speaks and emphasizes words sounds to me exactly the way I would imagine it being said if I was reading the script. So she speaks my emotional language, and I don't know what to do with this knowledge.
That is something you should just cherish, I guess, and treasure.
I'm thinking I need to watch a lot more Todoroki Yu shows now.
Yeah, she is amazing. I think her acting is, it's amazing. I love it. She can do subtle acting is the hardest. Some people go all out as Lukiani, going cray, and that could be good too. But if you don't need that and still look crazy and really amusing, then that's almost even greater. If you don't need to go all out,
And then we have Rudolf, played by Koju Tatsuki.
Love her so much. I think it's the only thing I've seen her in as... I've never seen anything with her when she was top star, but after this, I really want to, because I love this portrayal.
Yeah, very sweet, fantastic voice. And there are a couple of really, really short moments that I really, really love with this Rudolph, which is one where Rudolph is sitting on the stage, on the floor, kind of curled up, and Death comes and touches him from behind on the shoulders, and Rudolph first shakes Death off.
Yes.
But then he turns around and recognizes him, and then he is kind of more friendly, like partakes in this song and dance number. But just the fact that it's a stranger putting their hands on him and he shakes them off,
That is different from later. Did you notice that he doesn't shake Death off later?
Yeah.
He just almost reacts. But I think that's because, it mirrors exactly the sequence when Rudolph is a child. That's the way Death approaches Rudolph when he's a child, from behind, when he's sitting there curled up and sad. So it exactly mirrors the way he comes the first time. And so, yeah, it's nice to see how they've changed these small things.
I think that both of these versions work really well. And oh my god, Tatsuki's face.
Yeah,
when
I know.
Elisabeth says she won't help him, and that little face. And it's just like he's saying, okay, I'm an adult mother, I see, I got it. And then...
But I don't.
Yeah, but then the minute she turns away, he just crumbles. Because an adult waits to break down until they are alone.
Yes, and also, yeah, like you said, the way that he doesn't do it in front of her, you can just see that. But at the same time, you can see that he's like, oh, okay, I have no hope left, but okay, Mom. And then he just breaks down when she walks away. But just like her general facial expressions are so heartfelt, and they just make your chest hurt.
Yeah.
All throughout Yamiga Hirogane, when she says gaman dekinai, that's like the most I've ever felt Rudolph gaman dekinai,
Yeah.
Like her face there is, I can't take it. Yeah, they really just sit and watch while everything goes to ruin. He's just, no, I cannot take this.
And they are really tossing Rudolph around on stage in that last dance. It's kind of in a way that parts of it don't look choreographed either. So I thought that was really great as well.
It's great if dancing doesn't look choreographed. When we were talking about Rudolph, the song I said that's so slow, it's the one when he sings to Elisabeth, Boko Mama no Kagami, when he says that he's the mirror image of his mother, and he should understand how he feels. That song is really slow compared to later versions, which it also is in the Vienna original production. And also Koji Tatsuki's reaction to the gunshot.
Yes.
The suicidal gunshot is the best of all the Rudolphs. Okay, there, I've said it. She actually, I don't know how you look when you, sorry, shoot yourself in your head, but this looks good. I can say that much, yeah.
The jerk she makes and how she falls
jerks
and everything.
And she dies at once. Some of the other ones, they shoot themselves and they stare and they have the eyes open for like 2 seconds and then they fall, and she just like falls at once and into the arms of death. And yes, so that's just a golden moment.
It's really good and terrible, of course, but
and
really
terrible,
good.
But it's good, like well played out.
Yeah. And also, there is a chichai Rudolph, a tiny Rudolph, a Rudolph when he is a child. And it's Aranke, and she is so tiny. Oh my god.
Aranke.
So it's the tiniest little chichai Aranke, and this is a treasure, and we must protect it.
And when you see that little tiny Aranke Rudolph, and then you think that she actually was Death in the Shinko, like the Shinjinkoan version, it doesn't mix in your head. So
yeah, She had this really trusting sweetness about her, and that hopeful little face, and it is,
It's
yes,
just
it is a
always fun to
treasure.
see future stars in their baby years.
Oh, definitely. So if anyone is into Aranke, watch this. And then we have Sophie, played by Shu Michiru.
Yes.
And what is with those eyebrows?
What is with that makeup? That is the most amazing. No, I mean that over the top makeup.
Yeah, there is so much eyebrow.
There is only eyebrow, I think, and her facial expressions. She looks like she's completely batshit. Like
Yeah. Oh God.
she is
Yeah.
scary.
So she's kind of ghoulish.
If for me, she's almost on the border of a bit goofy because she's trying to be so scary that it almost becomes a little bit funny.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she's really scary.
She looks scary even when she takes a happy little skip when she finds out she's had a grandchild. And if you are happy and you still look scary, then that's really scary.
Yes.
And also, this Sophie takes so much pleasure out of the power she has over Elisabeth. She looks smug and a
she's
little
crazy.
like she is trying to suppress her glee when she is able to just like get at Elisabeth.
I just feel like she's just completely crazy and mean. This Sophie is just evil. She doesn't have any human left in her.
I think she is just like Cinderella's evil stepmother in the Disney movie. She kind of has the same hair and everything. She looks kind of like that. And if you are going for the evil stepmother look and everything, then they really caught that. And then in the second act, she has an evil stepmother level up. She just looks really creepy, and I think that's what they were going for.
Probably.
Yeah.
I hope. If they were going for nice and cuddly, they failed.
Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to mention about the advisors as well, because they appear mostly in scenes where Sophie is also in there. And I love their outfits. They look really slick. They look really good, especially in the second act. Oh, and Miho Keiko plays Madame Wolf.
Yes.
If you have been watching Callista, I know not everyone has watched Callista, but Miho Keiko is in Callista, and she's really good in that. And here, she is a perfectly sleazy Madame Wolf, and I love it. It's perfect.
And she has a voice. Yeah, that's the only thing. She has an amazing voice, and everything she's in, she just makes it better, basically.
Oh, definitely.
She's awesome.
She has there's a lot of power in her voice, and she's a really good actress, and yeah, just all round fantastic. So keep an eye out for her. She's really good.
Yeah, she's in like many productions.
Yeah. And so sleazy here. I love it. Oh, it's so good. Also, Wow Yorka, who later became top star, she is in this, and she plays Elma. And nobody has ever looked more attractive in a moustache. Yes.
Yeah, she pulls that off well.
And she played Rudolph in the Tokyo run of this, I believe. And then she plays Franz Josef. Is it in the 98 production?
It is.
Yes. So, and then she became top star later on, and she's really good. So,
she's one of my loves as well. So, I love her. That's the only thing I'm gonna say about that right now. I'll save the rest for the Franz Josef.
Yeah. I know we've talked a little bit about differences between this production and later productions, but there is also a song that is not in this production that gets added later on, and it's a song between Death and Elisabeth, and it's called Watashi ga odoru toki. Which production was it that it was added in?
It was added in the 2002 production, Flower Troop, with Haruno Sumire and Otori Rei. Also one of the hits, actually, from the original musical, the Vienna musical.
Are there any other changes, any things that you noticed about this production that you felt, oh, this thing is not in here?
Well, some small things were different back then. Like one thing, I loved this scene, Milk, with the song Milk, where they sing about the milk being gone because Elisabeth is bathing in it, so the people can't get their milk. And that scene is now performed, or the climax of the song is performed on the ginkyo, or the bridge, they call it, the bridge closest to the audience, across from the orchestra pit. And in this version, it's on the stage, and so that I missed that, but that wasn't added until 2005, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one thing that I missed in this one. And then also, after Elisabeth visits Hungary and wins their hearts by wearing a dress with their colors, the Hungarian rebels have a short little scene with some dialogue in the later versions, but that scene isn't in this version. It only cuts directly to Death talking to them. So that's another small thing that was added later.
Yeah, so the scene is still there, but they don't have a little bit when they are on their own in the beginning of it.
Exactly.
Okay.
You just see them and then they talk to Death.
Okay.
So they don't speak at all by themselves. Lots of small stuff though, but
yeah, lots of tiny things.
And also there's no knife drop at the end. Death doesn't drop the knife into Lucchini's hands. He just gives it to him.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that's in the later Elisabeths. It's a thing that Death drops the knife from a different into Lucchini's hands at the end when Lucchini murders Elisabeth.
Yeah.
And here he just gives it to him. So that's quite a big change, because that's a real moment.
I'm just thinking about, like, if you drop a knife and someone is supposed to catch it, you run the risk of that person cutting their hands. So that is it is a more dramatic way of handing over the knife.
Yes, it is. It gives effect to the scene.
Yeah.
It's more, it's like the suspense of seeing him dropping it and Lucchini catching it.
Yeah. So not dropping it that way, but handing it over puts a bit more pressure on Lucchini to make the scene very effective.
Yeah, especially as Ichiro's death is so expressionless. So it's all on Lucchini here.
Yes, I guess. But she's still a fantastic death. I'm not gonna back down on that one. She's great.
No.
Yeah. And then we get to the finale, and she takes off her wig and starts wearing white. I mean, not straight off, but after a while she takes off her wig and she's wearing this white outfit that has, is it studs or sparkles on them? But it looks great anyway. And she has this really intense, no-nonsense focus. And then for the pair dance, Hanafu Samari comes running out on stage, just rushing out. And I was wondering if that was actually intentional or if she missed her cue or something, because it doesn't look intentional.
I think it's for dramatic purposes. I think it just looks dramatic when she comes running out. I think it's on purpose.
Okay, well, I hope it's on purpose. It's just like, I just feel that, oh my god, she might have missed her cue here, and then just, oh my god, I don't think they run out on stage.
Oh. Well, I think that it's fun to notice that the order of the numbers of the finale has basically not changed since '96. It still begins with the Nibante, the person playing Franz Josef, singing Aito Shino Rondo. And then you have the roquette, like the line dance. Exactly the same line dance still. And then you have some numbers with Death and
Musumiyaku, right?
Yeah, with Death singing and they dance. And then it's the dance with the famous Otokuyaku dance. That is so fabulous. I adore that dance. The basic way the finale is done is the same still today. Only the arrangement of the songs and what songs they sing
What style?
What style they sing it in. That changes a bit. But also, this was Ichiromaki's Taidan Koen, so this is her last show that she made before she retired. And so the song she sings before the duet dance with Hana Samari is in the melody of Watashi Dake ni, but the lyrics is about her time in Takarazuka, or it's the Taidan song. It's a really beautiful song, and she sings it really beautifully, and I get emotional watching it because it's really beautifully made and a great song, great melody to do it to. So I love that part of this whole, because that's not in the other ones, seeing as this is a special like Taidan thing.
She also has angel wings as her hane, or it could angel wing. It could be swan wings or goose wings.
I just think it's weird, nowadays it's only dark colors. Death is dark and scary, and this is angel. I don't know if it has anything to do with her Taidan.
It could potentially be something.
It could be.
That. Or that they were trying to go for the aesthetic where death is just really light and white and bright and pretty.
Like the last image of death in the actual musical, they're wearing white. Maybe.
Oh, and she's so pretty and smiling, and it's beautiful. And also, I need to mention that Todoroki Yu wears a uniform. And damn. Yep, that's all. I'm not, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also I just need to say again that this is the first time that famous Otokaku dance is performed in the finale, and it still is to this day, and it's exactly the same dance, but Ichiromaki has a really nice way of exiting the stage. She walks like diagonally up the stairs while the Otokaku on the stairs gradually move out of the way. And it's really, really beautifully done, because nowadays the top star just walks out to the side, disappears off, and I love that. But and also the dance again is I love it so much. I had the chance to see it live now last week, and it was as amazing as I thought it would be.
You saw the Soragumi Elisabeth 2016.
Yes, I did. My first live Takarazuka Elisabeth. So that was nice.
Fantastic. I'm just a little bit jealous, but mostly I'm happy for you.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a later episode, I think.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Do you have any final comments about this production of Elisabeth?
Overall, I like it very much. I like the individual performances. Not my favorite death portrayal, but still a really good one. It's just a lot of fun to see how this Takarazuka gem came to be, and see how far it's come to this day, and see how much has stayed the same.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really enjoy watching this one. And I enjoyed watching it again just for this episode, because it was a while since I watched it last time.
No, I'm looking forward to watching all of the other Elisabeths that I haven't watched so far. It's kind of amazing how I've been hesitant to watch these older versions. And then when I do watch them, I just find so many things in each one that I absolutely love. And I think to myself, why did I wait so long? Like, I shouldn't have waited. It's so great. It's so nice and fantastic in many different ways. So
and the old ones are great. The only downside is that if you really fall in love with someone, they've probably already quit Takarazuka, so you don't have a chance to see them anymore in Takarazuka. So that's the only thing that hurts a bit.
yeah. But there are also a lot of really big names in all of these productions. So you can be like, oh yeah, that person became top star later, and that person, and they're in this, and they're in that. So there is that element to it as well, which is quite nice.
That's always so fun. Yeah.
And I also wanted to add that the white masks that they use in this, so they have these CNs who are dancing, and they're completely covered in white fabric, and then they have these white masks, and they're in the beginning and they're in the end, and they look really creepy, those masks. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm presuming that was intentional.
I think so.
Yeah, they didn't just pop to the Hyakuen store and get like, oh, we need 20 white masks, these will do.
Those masks are always creepy.
Not always, I think. I think I've seen pretty ones as well. I seem to remember. I can't remember which production it is right now, but I seem to believe that there have been less creepy masks, but they are creepy in this one.
Oh.
And what is it with mustaches and looking smoking hot in this show?
I don't know, because I don't think Todoroki Yu really. I think she looks better without a mustache. She has her like upper lip is too small. It disappears. It disappears under the mustache.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of a Poirot mustache. She looks a bit like Poirot. Yeah.
Who were you thinking about?
No, just Wow Yorka and Franz Josef, and yeah, I think a lot of people look really good in their mustaches in this show.
Generally, they do pull it off well.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today for the very first episode of our Elisabeth Revue Corner series. Next time, we'll talk about the Hoshigumi production from 1996-97 with Asaji Saki and Shiraki Ayaka. Thank you very much for listening. Bye!
Bye!
Thank you also to the Arcanum String Quartet for their wonderful arrangement of Sumire no Hana Saku Koro.